We have already learned that there is often a link between genocide and war. The Armenian Genocide occurred as World War I occupied the world's attention. The European Holocaust began in the 1930s, but it reached its zenith while Europe was in the midst of World War II. Genocidal behavior is easier to hide when a war is taking place. While the United States and much of the rest of the world were focused on the conflict in Vietnam in the last half of the 1970s, a tragedy of huge magnitude was also occurring in Southeast Asia as the Cambodian Genocide took place. While the number of victims is sometimes disputed, it appears that perhaps 2 million people were killed in Cambodia during the reign of the Khmer Rouge regime of Pol Pot. Unlike other genocides that we've studied, in which a specific ethnic group was targeted, most of the victims in Cambodia were killed by other Cambodians. This has led some to refer to this as self-genocide. Whatever label is attached to it, the Cambodian Genocide brought tremendous suffering to the nation. Entire cities were evacuated, with citizens relocated to work camps in rural regions. Individuals who were viewed as enemies of the communist Khmer Rouge regime were executed. Those having no political affiliations were often imprisoned or killed just because they had been educated or were professionals, or even just because they wore eyeglasses. The background to the Cambodian Genocide includes the colonial occupation by the French from 1863 until the Japanese army invasion in 1942. Following World War II, the French attempted to regain control of Cambodia, but King, he later took the titles Prime Minister and Prince, Sihanouk, opposed their presence and regained power in 1953, holding it through 1970. As the war between communist North Vietnam and non-communist South Vietnam escalated during the 1960s, Sihanouk attempted to remain neutral, though he did allow China and North Vietnam to establish military bases and supply centers in Cambodia. He also instituted a number of repressive policies that alienated groups on both the political left and right, and led to his being deposed in 1970 in a military coup led by Lon Nol, a general whose regime received massive aid from the United States. Lon Nol had little popular support, and an opposition communist group, the Khmer Rouge, deposed him in 1975, with the ruthless Pol Pot taking command. The Khmer Rouge sought to establish a completely agricultural communist Cambodia. They evacuated most of the major cities of all residents, relocating them in newly built rural villages and work camps. They sought to eliminate all Roman Catholic and Buddhist influences while persecuting or killing anyone designated an enemy of the people, which included virtually all members of the educated class and ethnic groups such as the Vietnamese within Cambodia. This extreme nationalism led to both direct and indirect killings of at least 1.9 million Cambodians. Many were murdered while others were killed by overwork and starvation. In what became known as the killing fields, at least 20,000 mass graves were dug throughout the Cambodian countryside. In addition to the horrible conditions in the rural work camps, brutal detention centers and prisons were set up. In one located outside the capital of Phnom Penh, only 10 inmates out of 14,000 prisoners are thought to have survived. Pol Pot invaded Vietnam in 1978, leading to a Vietnamese counteroffensive that quickly took control of most of Cambodia, though the Khmer Rouge continued to control some regions of the country and fought a guerrilla campaign from the forests across the border in Thailand. In the politically unstable period that followed the end of the Khmer Rouge rule, it was very difficult to identify, locate, and then prosecute the individuals responsible for the Cambodian genocide. Many had fled to Thailand and hid in the jungle there. In addition, the new Cambodian government and the United Nations had difficulty determining the type of court that would prosecute those who committed crimes against humanity. Finally, a compromise was reached with both Cambodian and international judges conducting trials. To this date, only 5 people have been tried and only one person has been convicted. The Cambodian genocide was largely overlooked by most of the world when it took place during the 1970s. In terms of percentage of population killed, it may be the most horribly efficient genocide of the 20th century, as 1 out of 4 Cambodians died at the hands of their fellow countrymen. The fact that so few of those responsible for those atrocities have been held accountable reminds one of the observation of Raphael Lemkin, the inventor of the term genocide. Why, asked Lemkin, is it a crime to kill one man, but it is not a crime for an oppressor to kill more than 1 million men? Well, the international community has now recognized that it is a crime to commit genocide. Punishing perpetrators is almost as difficult today as it was at the start of the 20th century.